Rain hammered against the glass walls of the Stark International Tower, slicing the skyline with streaks of lightning. Inside, the elevator door slid open with a soft chime, and Lena Hayes stepped out, clutching a folder like it was her last lifeline. Her heart raced not from the climb to the 50th floor, but from the text message glowing on her phone, "He knows." She forced herself to walk, heels clicking against the marble floor. Every step echoed in the cavernous hallway, bouncing off the sleek walls of glass and steel. She felt the weight of 1,000 eyes, even if none were truly watching. The cameras, the guards, the quiet hum of wealth and power, it all reminded her who owned this building, who ruled this world. Adrian Stark, the CEO, the man who could buy silence, command loyalty, and destroy lives with a single call. The man she once loved, and the father of the secret she'd buried for 3 long years. A gust of air from the office fence made her shiver. She could almost hear his voice again, calm, deep, and unreadable, the same voice that had once whispered promises under the soft lights of his penthouse. Back then, she'd believed every word. Now, those words were poison. "Ms. Hayes," said the receptionist, not lifting her gaze from the glowing monitor. "Mr. Stark is waiting for you." Lena swallowed hard, nodding, her throat dry. She pushed the glass door open. The room smelled of cedarwood and tension. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the night-drenched city, the streets below glimmering like veins of gold. And there he was. Adrian stood by the window, one hand tucked in his pocket, the other holding a tumbler of amber liquid that caught the lightning like fire. His black suit was immaculate, his expression unreadable, but his eyes, those cold gray eyes, found her the moment she entered. "You're late," he said without turning. His voice carried across the room, low and smooth, like a blade sliding from its sheath. "There was traffic," she lied. He turned then, setting the glass on the table with deliberate calm. "There's never traffic when I want to see someone, Lena. You know that." Her chest tightened. She hated that he could still say her name like that, like it meant something. He stepped closer, and every inch of space he closed seemed to shrink the room. 3 years, he said quietly. 3 years without a single call. No explanation, nothing. And now you waltz into my building with a file and expect me to believe this is about work. Lena's fingers tightened around the folder. "It is about work. The merger proposal. Don't insult me." His eyes flashed. "I know what you're hiding." For a heartbeat, everything froze. The rain, the thunder, even her pulse. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Her mind screamed for her to run, to lie, to deny, but something in his gaze told her it wouldn't matter. Adrian reached into his pocket and pulled out a small photograph. It was worn, slightly creased, the kind of picture someone might keep hidden in a wallet for years. He laid it on the table between them. Lena's breath hitched. It was her son. Their son. "His name is Ethan," Adrian said softly. "He has your eyes." Her knees nearly gave way. How did you didn't think I'd notice?" He laughed once, bitterly. "A child born 6 months after you vanished, the same city, the same brown eyes, the same little curl in his hair." He stepped closer, his voice rough now. "You thought you could hide him from me." Tears burnt her eyes, but she blinked them back. "You don't understand, Adrian. I had to protect him from me." The words cracked through the room like thunder. "Yes," she shouted. "From your world, from your enemies, from everything that comes with being you." He stared at her, stunned silence filling the gap between them. Then his tone softened, dangerously low. "You think I wouldn't protect my own son? You couldn't protect me," she whispered. That hit him harder than she expected. His jaw clenched, and for the first time in years, his perfect composure fractured. He turned away, running a hand through his hair. "You left without a word, Lena. Do you have any idea what that did to me?" "I did what I had to do." "No," he said, spinning back toward her, his eyes sharp again. "You did what you wanted. You took away my choice, my family, my future." He leaned forward, voice trembling with fury and hurt. "You took my son." She tried to hold his gaze, but guilt was heavier than fear. "I thought I was doing the right thing." He stared at her for a long, agonizing moment. Then his voice dropped to a whisper that sent chills through her. "You don't get to decide that anymore." A tense silence stretched between them. The city roared beneath them, sirens echoing faintly in the distance. "Where is he now?" Adrian asked finally. Her pulse quickened. "He's safe." "That wasn't the question. I won't tell you." Adrian's eyes darkened. "You really think you can keep hiding him from me?" Lena's voice broke. "You don't understand what they'll do if they find out who." She stopped, her mouth went dry. He stepped closer again, eyes narrowing. "Lena, who's after you?" Her silence gave him the answer. He exhaled sharply, rubbing a hand over his face. "God, you're shaking. You're not just hiding from me, you're running from someone else." She said nothing. His phone buzzed on the table. He glanced at the screen, and his expression changed instantly, tight, cold, controlled. He answered it, voice clipped. "What is it?" A pause. "Then what do you mean she's being followed?" Lena's blood ran cold. He turned toward her slowly, eyes narrowing as he listened. "Understood, bring the car around." Now he hung up, pocketed the phone and said, "You weren't wrong. Someone is watching you." Her heart dropped. "What? You're not going anywhere alone." "Not anymore. I can handle it. You couldn't even hide from me." The words hit her like a slap. Before she could respond, he crossed the room, grabbed his coat, and motioned for her to follow. "Adrian, where are we going?" "To get our son," he said flatly, her breath caught. "No, it's not safe. It's safer than leaving him alone." The SUV tore through the rain-slicked streets, wipers thrashing against the storm. Inside, silence pressed heavier than the thunder outside. Lena sat beside Adrian, every muscle rigid, her eyes flicking from shadow to shadow beyond the tinted glass. "Where is he?" Adrian asked finally, voice steady but tight. She hesitated. "A safe house." Outside the city, he turned his head slightly, gray eyes cutting through her defenses, and addressed Lena. She stared down at her trembling hands. "You'll have it when we're close. If I give it now, your men will storm in, and I can't let that happen. He's just a child. I would never hurt my son. It's not you I'm worried about." Adrian didn't respond, but his jaw clenched. The car's engine roared louder as he signaled the driver. "Take us out of the city east route, and keep your eyes open." "Yes, sir," the driver replied, tapping the earpiece. Lena glanced at him. "You've upgraded since I left." Adrian's lips twitched in something between a smile and a grimace. "You don't survive this long without learning who to trust, and who not to," she murmured. For a long stretch, neither spoke. The storm blurred the skyline behind them, towers dissolving into streaks of neon and rain. When they finally hit the freeway, Adrian reached into the console and pulled out a small device, a tablet synced to a live security feed. A red dot blinked at the edge of the city. "What's that?" Lena asked. "Your tail," he said. "They've been following you for days. My team picked up the signal tonight." Her stomach twisted. "Then they know where Ethan is." He shot her a sharp look. "Not yet. That's why we're moving now." Lena turned toward the window, her reflection pale in the glass. "You don't understand what they're capable of, Adrian. These people don't care who gets hurt. They want something you have." He raised an eyebrow. "Me? No," she said quietly. "Your research." He frowned. "You mean the Stark neuro—" She nodded. "They've been after it for months. When I left the company, I thought walking away would keep Ethan out of it, but someone must have traced me. They found out about him. About you." Adrian's eyes darkened. "You should have come to me. You were the reason I had to run." His grip on the tablet tightened, but he said nothing. The storm swallowed the car again, lightning flashing across his face. Beneath the cold CEO exterior, Lena caught a glimpse of something ruffier maybe. Not for himself, but for the boy he'd never met. After a while, the car slowed, turning off the main road onto a narrow, winding lane lined with trees whipping in the wind. The headlights carved a path through the darkness, illuminating a small cabin ahead. "There," Lena whispered. "Stop here." The driver parked. Adrian stepped out first, scanning the area before signaling his team to hold position. Lena rushed ahead, her shoes splashing through puddles. She unlocked the cabin door with shaking hands and burst inside. "Ethan," she called softly. A small voice answered from the hallway. "Mummy." Lena's heart broke at the sound. She dropped to her knees as the boy ran into her arms. He was small, barely 4, his brown curls damp with sleep. She hugged him tight, tears spilling before she could stop them. Adrian stood frozen in the doorway, watching. Ethan turned his head and stared up at the man behind his mother. "Who's that?" Lena hesitated, her throat closing. Adrian stepped forward, slowly, as if approaching something fragile. "Hey buddy," he said gently. "I'm a friend of your mom's." The boy blinked at him, curious. "You sound like me." Lena's breath hitched. Adrian smiled faintly, but his eyes glistened with something deeper. "Yeah, I guess I do." Outside, a distant sound cut through the storm, a car door slamming. Too close. Adrian's head snapped toward the window. "They found us." Lena froze. "Know how?" "Doesn't matter." He turned to his team over the radio. "Positions now. We're not letting them near the boy." Ethan clung to his mother as the first burst of headlights sliced through the trees. 2 black SUVs rolled to a stop near the edge of the property. Shadows moved behind the glare. Lena's pulse pounded. "Adrian, they won't stop. They'll take him if they have to. Not tonight." He grabbed her hand, pulling her toward the back of the cabin. "There's a service road behind the hill. We'll move on foot. But your men, they'll stole them." The sound of gunfire cracked in the distance, short bursts. Controlled. Adrian's expression hardened. "Move." He guided them through the back door, one arm shielding Ethan, the other holding Lena close as they ran into the storm. Rain soaked them instantly, but Adrian didn't slow down. The forest swallowed them whole, darkness pressing in from every side. "Keep low," he whispered. "Don't look back." Branches clawed at their clothes as they stumbled down the slope. Behind them, engines roared and voices shouted through the chaos. Lena gasped. "They're gaining." "Almost there," Adrian said, his voice rough. He pressed a button on his watch, and somewhere ahead, a faint beeping sound answered, a hidden car waiting, engines humming in the dark. They reached it just as headlights burst through the trees behind them. Adrian shoved Lena and Ethan inside, jumped into the driver's seat, and slammed the accelerator. Tires spun mud and gravel into the air as the car shot forward. Bullets shattered the rear window. Lena screamed, covering Ethan. Adrian swerved hard, the car fishtailing before finding grip again. "Hold on," he shouted. They hit the main road at full speed, rain hammering the windshield. Adrian drove like a man possessed, eyes flicking between mirrors and the road. The SUV behind them didn't stop, it followed relentlessly, headlights cutting through the storm. Lena reached for the glove compartment and found a small pistol. Still keeping your bad habits, huh? Occupational necessity, Adrian said through gritted teeth. She rolled down the window just enough, aimed, and fired twice. The first shot missed, but the second cracked the front light of the pursuing vehicle, swerved, losing control for a moment. Adrian glanced at her, half impressed, half terrified. When did you learn to shoot? After you. The car sped through the winding mountain road until finally the headlights behind them faded into darkness. Adrian slowed, breathing hard. We'll switch cars in 20 minutes, he said. They'll regroup fast. Ethan stirred in the back seat, eyes wide with fear. Mummy, what's happening? Lena turned and stroked his cheek. It's okay, sweetheart. We're just going somewhere safe. Adrian glanced in the mirror. He's brave. He shouldn't have to be, she whispered. For a moment, their eyes met. Rain streaked across the windshield. The city lights gone now, replaced by endless fields and shadows. The storm outside raged, but inside the car, another kind of storm brewed, one made of unspoken regrets and the fragile thread of trust being rewoven after years apart. After a long silence, Adrian said quietly, "You could have told me. We could have faced this together." "I wanted to," she said. "But every time I thought about calling you, I remembered the night you told me there's no room for love in your life. Only business, only control. I couldn't raise a child in that world." He looked away, guilt flickering in his eyes. "Maybe I didn't deserve to know." "Don't say that," she whispered. "Ethan deserves a father, but not one who could lose him to his enemies. Then I'll make sure he never has to." How will Adrian's jaw set by finding out who's behind this and ending it? The car rounded a bend, headlights sweeping over a sign that read Cold Water Motel 2 miles. The neon sign of the Cold Water Motel flickered in the storm, buzzing faintly like a dying heartbeat. Adrian parked the car behind the building, away from the main road. Rain still poured in sheets, but the air felt heavier now, less like a storm, more like a warning. Lena carried Ethan inside, the boy's head resting on her shoulder. He'd fallen asleep despite everything, his small hand gripping her sweater tightly. Adrian followed close, his eyes scanning every corner of the dimly lit lobby. The motel clerk barely looked up from his phone. "1 room or 2, he muttered. Adrian pulled a billfold from his coat and slid a few hundreds across the counter. "No questions. No registration. We were never here." The man blinked, nodded once, and tossed a key onto the counter. "Room 7, end of the hall." Adrian took it and motioned for Lena to follow. The hallway was narrow, the wallpaper peeling, the air thick with the smell of damp wood and old secrets. The room itself was small but clean enough: a single bed, a small sofa, and a window half covered by heavy curtains. Lena laid Ethan gently on the bed, brushing a damp curl from his forehead. "He needs rest," she whispered. Adrian nodded, closing the blinds completely. "We'll only stay a few hours. My team's setting up a diversion route." She turned to him. "They followed us again, didn't they?" He hesitated just long enough to confirm it. "To cars. Same model as before. They backed off a few miles out, which means they're regrouping," she said grimly. Adrian didn't deny it. He pulled off his soaked jacket and dropped it over the chair, his shirt clinging to his shoulders. For a moment, the silence between them was deafening. Then Lena said softly, "You shouldn't have come for us." He looked up sharply. "You think I'd let my son stay out there with people hunting him? I was handling it." "No," he cut her off. "You were surviving. There's a difference." The words hung heavy in the air. Lena crossed her arms, her voice trembling with exhaustion and anger. "You think I wanted this? You think I enjoyed hiding, running, lying to everyone? I left because I had to, Adrian, because being near you was a death sentence." "For who?" he asked quietly. "You or me?" She flinched. "For Ethan." Adrian's expression softened, the sharp edges fading for just a second. He took a step closer. "You could have trusted me." "I couldn't even trust myself," she whispered. The storm outside roared louder, thunder cracking across the sky. Adrian walked to the small kitchenette, poured himself a glass of water, then stared at his reflection in the window. "I spent 3 years convincing myself you didn't exist," he said. "That I'd imagined what we had. It was easier than thinking you chose to disappear." Lena looked down at her hands. "It wasn't a choice." He turned to face her, eyes dark. "Then help me understand. Who are they, Lena? Who wants this technology so badly they'd go after a child?" She swallowed hard. "It started before I left. There was a team inside your company group that wanted to sell the Neuralink prototype to an offshore investor. I found out too late. They had people everywhere. The minute I tried to expose them, my access was revoked. Security came after me, and then I found out I was pregnant." Adrian's eyes widened. "You were being hunted. By my own company. By someone inside it," she said. "Someone powerful enough to erase their tracks. I thought leaving would keep Ethan off their radar." He paced the room, fists clenched. "I'll find them. Every one of them." "Adrian, no," he snapped, his voice low but shaking. "They threatened you. They put our son in danger. That ends now." Lena stepped forward, gripping his arm. "You can't fight them head on. You'll lose everything." He looked at her, a flicker of something fierce in his gaze. "Then I'll lose it for the right reason." Before she could respond, his phone buzzed on the table. He grabbed it, answered in a clipped tone. "Talk to me," a voice crackled through the speaker. "Sir, we lost the signal from the trackers. The team thinks they switched vehicles. Maybe set up surveillance near your route. We're scanning, but wait." The line cut to static. Adrian froze. "Say again." "Nothing." Lena's heart skipped. "What's happening?" He lowered the phone slowly. They jammed communications. Then, faintly, from outside, the sound of tires on gravel. Adrian was at the window in an instant, peering through a slit in the curtain. 2 dark SUVs had pulled into the motel parking lot. "They found us." Lena's blood turned to ice. "Ethan, I've got him." Adrian moved fast, scooping the boy into his arms. "We need to move now. Out the back." "Too obvious." He pointed to the vent behind the bathroom. "There's an access hatch that leads to the alley. Go, I'll cover you. I'm not leaving you." He met her gaze, firm and unyielding. "You are. You take him. You run east toward the highway. There's a diner 2 miles up. Wait for me there." "No heroics, Lena. Promise me." Tears welled in her eyes. "Adrian, promise me." She nodded. He kissed Ethan's forehead gently. "Be brave, little man. Daddy will find you." Then he handed the boy to her, turned and slipped a small gun from his holster. The knock came seconds later. 3 short raps, then silence. Adrian pressed his back to the wall, gun raised. Another knock, harder this time. "Room service," a voice called, low and mocking. Adrian's eyes narrowed. "Go," he mouthed. Lena crawled into the bathroom, pushed open the hatch and lifted Ethan through. The boy was crying silently, clinging to her neck. "It's okay, sweetheart," she whispered, forcing calm into her voice. "We're just playing hide and seek." From the front room came a crack, the sound of the door being kicked open. Adrian moved like lightning. Firing once, the bullet tore through the first man's shoulder. 2 more stormed in behind him, shouting orders. Adrian ducked behind the sofa, returning fire. Lena bit back a sob and crawled through the narrow vent, pushing Ethan ahead. Behind her, gunfire echoed through the metal shaft, deafening and sharp. They emerged in the alley, rain pounding on their backs. Lena grabbed Ethan's hand and ran. Inside, Adrian reloaded, dove for cover, and hit the emergency trigger on his watch. Somewhere in the distance, a sharp ping confirmed a distress signal had been sent if the jammers hadn't blocked it completely. "Where is she?" a voice shouted from the doorway. Adrian recognized it instantly. Mark Vance, his former head of security. He stood slowly, gun still raised. "So it was you," Vance smirked. "You always thought you were untouchable, boss. But the board doesn't want the Neuralink in your hands anymore. They sent you to kill me." "No," Vance said, "just to make sure the tech doesn't walk away with your girlfriend." Adrian fired before the last word finished. Vance dropped, clutching his shoulder, but his men kept advancing. Adrian dove behind the bed, bullets tearing into the walls. Outside, Lena sprinted through the mud, the glow of headlights flickering behind her. Ethan stumbled, crying out. She lifted him again, lungs burning. "Almost there, baby, almost there." Behind them, the motel exploded in flames. The shockwave knocked her to the ground. She shielded Ethan as debris rained down. The night turned orange and black. "Adrian," she screamed. No answer, only fire. Sirens wailed somewhere distant, faint, through the storm. Lena staggered to her feet, eyes wide with horror. The motel was gone. The man she'd run from, man just begun to trust again, was lost inside it. "Mommy," Ethan whimpered. She swallowed hard, forcing her voice steady. "We have to go, sweetheart, now." She carried him down the dark highway, every step heavier than the last. Miles away, through smoke and rain, a figure emerged from the wreckage, burned, bloodied, but alive. "Adrian Stark," he coughed, staggered to his feet, and looked toward the road. The motel behind him collapsed into a pile of burning wood. He pressed a hand. The sky was bruised gray by dawn, the storm easing into a cold drizzle. Smoke still curled from the ruins of the motel, curling upward like a signal no one wanted to see. A convoy of Stark security vehicles pulled up on the gravel road, lights cutting through the mist. Adrian stood at the edge of the wreckage, his shirt torn, streaks of soot running down his jaw. His body ached, but his eyes were sharp, alive with fury and determination. "Any sign of them?" he asked. One of his men shook his head. "We found tracks heading east. Looks like she's on foot." A child with her. Adrian exhaled through his teeth. "Get the tracker drones up. Sweep the area within 10 miles. I want every route covered." "Yes, sir." He turned toward the blackened ruins, the faint scent of gasoline still lingering. Mark Vance's betrayal played on repeat in his mind, his own head of security, the man he trusted most. It wasn't just corruption. It was organized, funded. Someone had turned Vance and half his team against him. He clenched his fists. Whoever had done this was going to pay. He climbed into his car, the engine purring to life. As the convoy spread out in formation, Adrian's mind wasn't on vengeance, it was on Lena and Ethan. Every second counted now. 2 miles up the highway, Lena stumbled through the fog, carrying Ethan's small backpack slung over one shoulder. The diner's neon sign glowed faintly through the mist. "Just a little more, sweetheart," she whispered. Her legs felt like lead, but she pushed on. The warmth of the diner hit her as she stepped inside. The smell of coffee, fried eggs, and temporary fragile safety filled the air. She slid into a booth near the back, setting Ethan beside her. The boy was quiet, exhausted, his big brown eyes half closed. A waitress with kind eyes approached. "Rough night?" she asked. Lena managed a tired smile. "You could say that." The waitress nodded toward Ethan. "He looks hungry." "Pancakes." Lena hesitated, then nodded. "Please." The waitress disappeared toward the kitchen, and Lena finally let herself breathe. Her hands shook as she pulled her phone from her pocket. No signal. She closed her eyes, whispering, "Please, Adrian, be alive." Outside, a black SUV slowed near the diner, its headlights dimmed. A man in a dark coat lifted a phone to his ear. Speaking quietly, "Target confirmed. Woman and child inside. Proceed on my signal." Adrian's phone buzzed. A satellite image popped up, heat signatures, 2 of them, matching Lena and Ethan's biometric profiles. Location, Coldwater Diner. His pulse quickened. "I have them," he said into his com. "All units converge, but no engagement until I say so." "Sir, we're detecting 2 hostiles already on site," his tech team replied. "Then they're not getting out alive." He floored the accelerator. Inside the diner, Lena noticed the reflection of headlights in the window. She frowned, tension tightening her chest. Something felt wrong. The waitress returned with 2 plates of steaming pancakes, but Lena barely noticed. Ethan tugged at her sleeve. "Mummy, who are those men?" She turned. The figures had just walked in, both in black coats, both wearing expressions too controlled to belong in a roadside diner. One of them smiled faintly at her. Lena's heart dropped. She rose quickly, grabbing Ethan's hand. "Sweetheart, we have to go, ma'am," the waitress said, confused. But before she could answer, the first man pulled a silenced pistol from under his jacket. Lena ducked low, yanking Ethan beneath the table. The gun went off, shattering a coffee pot behind the counter. The waitress screamed. Lena crawled toward the back door, heart pounding. The air smelled like burnt coffee and gunpowder. She reached the exit, kicked it open, and ran into the rain. "Go," she shouted, pushing Ethan toward the line of parked cars. The men followed. Another shot rang out. The bullet grazed the wall inches from her head. A roar of engines split the air. Adrian's SUV screeched into the parking lot, tires spitting gravel. He was out of the car before it stopped moving, gun raised. Lena, she froze at the sound of his voice. Relief hit her like a wave. The gunman turned to slow. Adrian fired twice, both shots precise. One man fell, the other scrambled behind a car for cover. "Get down," Adrian shouted, sprinting toward her. Lena dropped, clutching Ethan. Adrian slid beside them, breathing hard. "You okay?" She nodded shakily. "You're alive." "Barely." The second gunman fired again, forcing Adrian to duck. "Stay here," he ordered, then moved fast, circling wide, using the cars for cover. Rain slicked his hair to his forehead, his movements sharp, focused. He caught the gunman reloading and charged. A scuffle erupted, mud fists, gunfire echoing off metal. The man swung wildly. Adrian blocked, countered, and slammed him against the car door. "Who sent you?" Adrian growled. The man spat blood. "You'll never stop it. She knows too much." Adrian's expression darkened. "Wrong answer." He drove a punch into the man's jaw, knocking him cold. Sirens wailed in the distance. Adrian turned back to Lena and Ethan, breathing hard. "We have to move again." "Where?" she asked. He looked east, toward the safe house sat tucked in the misty peaks of the northern range, an architectural ghost of glass and steel hidden behind a curtain of pine trees. From above, it looked abandoned. From inside, it was a fortress. The moment the jet touched down on the narrow airstrip beside the house, Adrian was already out, scanning the horizon, checking sensors, making sure they hadn't been followed. The mountain air was sharp, clean, and thin, but Lena still couldn't breathe right. She'd been running for years, and for the first time she had nowhere else to go. Ethan slept in her arms as they walked inside. The lights flickered on automatically, revealing the safe house interior sleek, minimalist, full of quiet hums and hidden security systems. Adrian keyed a code into the central console. "All systems online. Perimeter active." Lena set Ethan down on the couch and covered him with a blanket. "How long can we stay here before they find us?" "As long as we need," Adrian said. "It's off-grid, no satellite tracking. Even Isabel doesn't know this place exists." Lena turned, eyes narrowing. "You said that about the last safe location." He paused. "I underestimated her reach." "I won't again." Lena studied him for a moment. His face was tired, streaked with days of strain. For years she'd remembered him as the man who lived behind glass walls, untouched and untouchable. But now, here he was, bare human, furious and afraid. She stepped closer. "You keep saying you'll fix this, Adrian, but you can't protect us from everything." He looked at her, a faint ache in his eyes. "Watch me." Far below, in a sleek conference room lit by digital projections, Isabel Crane stood before a holographic map of the world. Red dots pulsed in several countries. The Neuralink data Adrian's life's work had already been duplicated. A man in a tailored suit spoke quietly. "Our operatives failed to neutralize Stark." Isabel didn't flinch. "That's fine. Let him run. The more desperate he gets, the easier he is to predict. He'll come for you. I'm counting on it." she said, turning toward the window where the city lights stretched like veins. He always does the noble thing, and noblemen always fall the same way. Back in the mountains, Adrian sat by the console, replaying security feeds and intercepted signals. Lena walked over with 2 mugs of coffee. Still nothing. He shook his head. They've gone silent. That's not good. It means they're planning something. He nodded grimly. Exactly. Ethan's voice came from the hallway. Mommy. Lena turned. Boy rubbed his eyes sleepily, holding a small toy plane in one hand. Can I sleep in Daddy's room tonight? Adrian froze. Lena smiled softly. You can if you promise not to wake him with your snoring. Ethan giggled, the sound like sunlight breaking through clouds. Adrian knelt and lifted the boy into his arms. You're safe here, okay? No bad guys, no running. Ethan nodded, eyes wide. You'll stay with us. Adrian hesitated. Always, when Ethan went back to bed, Lena lingered in the doorway, watching Adrian. He's starting to trust you. He smiled faintly. That makes one of you. Don't push it, she said, but her voice was gentler now. He looked at her for a long moment, then said quietly, I missed you. Lena turned away, fighting the rush of emotion. Don't start, Adrian. You think I planned any of this? Losing you. Losing 3 years. I think you built walls so high no one could reach you. Maybe, he admitted, but you were the only one who ever tried to climb them. Silence stretched between them, thick with everything they'd never said. Finally, Lena whispered, I wasn't hiding him to hurt you. I was hiding him because I didn't know if you could love him more than your empire. Adrian stepped closer. You're both my empire now. Her breath caught. For a second, the air between them shifted, less storm, more gravity. But before either could move closer, the console began to beep. Adrian turned sharply. Motion sensors. South perimeter. Lena's heart sank. They found us. He checked the monitor's 5 heat signatures moving fast through the forest. They're using dampened drones. They know the tech. He grabbed his gun and handed Lena a small tracking device. Take Ethan and head to the panic room below the east wing. Don't come out until I say Adrian. Now, Lena. She nodded and ran for Ethan's room. Outside, shadows moved like ghosts through the trees. Adrian crouched by the window, watching them approach. When the first drone passed overhead, he fired a single EMP round. It dropped instantly. Smoking, he heard a voice echo through the trees. Mr. Stark, you can't win this. Adrian recognized it. Vance somehow. He'd survived the motel. He smirked. You're still talking, Mark. That's a bad habit. He ducked behind a wall as gunfire erupted, glass shattering. He returned fire, moving between cover, driving them back toward the tree line. But the attackers were organized, methodical, trained by his own system. Vance shouted, You can't hide forever, boss. Isabel has the neural core. You're already obsolete. Adrian's blood ran cold. She has the what? The main data core, everything you built. She's selling it tonight. Adrian fired again, hitting one man squarely in the shoulder. Well, Vance laughed through the chaos. Singapore midnight, but you'll never make it off this mountain alive. Adrian was already moving, vaulting the deck railing, rolling behind a support beam, and taking out another attacker. You should know by now, he said, voice cold. I don't die that easy. He dropped the last man with a clean shot, then sprinted back inside. Lena met him at the stairs, breathless, Ethan clutching her hand. What happened? She asked. They were a distraction. He said, She's selling the Neuralink. I have to stop her. Lena's eyes widened. You're not going alone. He opened his mouth to argue, but she cut him off. If Isabel's willing to go this far, she won't stop, and she'll use Ethan to get to you. So wherever you go, we go. He stared at her, torn between instinct and fear. Then he nodded. All right, but once we land, you stay close. The jet sliced through the night sky once again, this time bound for Singapore. Below, the ocean shimmered under moonlight. Lena sat beside Adrian in the cockpit, Ethan asleep in the back. Why Singapore? She asked. Because that's where the data vault is, he said. The Neuralink core was designed to interface with global networks there. If she sells it, the buyer controls every neural mapping patent on Earth. Then we stop her. He glanced at her, admiration flickering in his eyes. You make it sound simple. Compared to running for 3 years, it is. At midnight, the Stark Tower branch in Singapore blazed with light. Inside the penthouse boardroom, Isabel Crane poured herself a glass of champagne, the city glittering behind her. Ladies and gentlemen, she said to the small group gathered, tonight, we make history. Neural dominance, global integration. Stark dreamed of connecting minds. I dream of controlling them. Before she could raise her glass, the doors blew open. Adrian strode in, gun lowered but eyes blazing. You always did have a flair for speeches. The room erupted into chaos, guards drawing weapons, buyers shouting. Isabel smiled coolly. You made it. I was wondering how long it would take. Lena appeared behind him, holding a flash drive, looking for this. Isabel's smile faltered. Adrian threw a small device onto the table. The lights flickered and every screen in the room went black. Failsafe, he said. You don't control the system. I do. You can't stop progress, Adrian. Isabel sneered. You can't stop me. Maybe not, he said, but I can end you. Guards opened fire. Adrian dove for cover, returning precise bursts. Lena ducked behind the table,